YouTube family. My name is Sonia. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, I appreciate all you're doing. If you're a new subscriber, welcome to the family. In this channel, we talk about everything finances and real estate. So, if you have your real estate thoughts, suggestions, or anything you want us to talk about, this is the channel we talk about all those things in details. In today's video, we will be talking about budgeting and why should you budget? Why should you work on your budget while you're thinking of buying a house? Why in the process of buying a house? Some people will be like, hey, why is she talking about budgeting now? Well, everything boils down to money, right? You can't actually have a house or make purchases without money, right? We have to exchange our currency or our income or something to get what we want. And in the case of buying a house, you need money, right? So you have to start thinking of how to budget. Buying a house it takes a lot of funds. It takes a lot of funds. So the earlier you start working on your budget, the better for you, the better for your family, right? So what are some of the things that budgeting could help you with? When you're budgeting, it's easier, right? So when you budget, it's affordable. You make everything you want to buy affordable. So by being affordable, you're able to spend that money on your home, right? You spend the money from, hey, this is how much I'm making as income. This is how much I'm going to be having as expenses. This is what my financial goal want to be in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. Remember, those homes are 15, 30 years, depending on what you actually end up taking. But let's just say, ironically, it's 30 years. So this is 30 years of you getting into a contract with somebody. So you need to sit down and budget. In the next 30 years, how am I going to pay this off? Do I want to take all the 30 years or do I want to pay quicker, right? And it's something very good that some banks actually give you the option so you can pay extra on your mortgage. So if you can pay extra, that means you can pay quicker and finish before the 30 years. So you actually have to put those things in a budget. Sit down and I don't know if you want to use a spreadsheet or paper or anything that is going to help you. I think there are a lot of apps there outside there that can actually help you with your budgeting. So it's basically what is going to be my income, what is going to be my expenses, and what is going to be my financial goal in the next 10, in the next 5, in the next 30 years, right? And by setting that budget, you actually ensure that by the time you're searching for a home, you stick into that budget. So you factor out all these other expenses, what your financial goal is in the next few years, and how much you're making. And let's say you're making $2,000 a week, and you say, I want to spend $1,000 on my house. We are just giving examples. $1,000 on your house. I want to save $500 for my other financial goals, right? And I want to keep $5,000 as other expenses. You never know other expenses that are going to come in. So you know that every time you're making that income comes in, this amount goes to this toward the payment of your house. This is for my expenses, and this is for my other financial goals that I haven't done. So if you have that, then you're not going to go above the 1,000 that you want to be keeping, right? You want to stick to that 1,000. So that is what helps you. So budgeting makes things affordable for you. Mortgage payment, so say, when you're buying the house, you have to pay a mortgage. So when you go into these long-time loans, or what is called mortgage, so you want to know how much the things you're going to pay. So when it comes to your mortgage, there are so many things that add up into your mortgage. Your taxes, your principal, your interest, home insurance, all those things comes into play. And most of them are actually added all up into your mortgage, and they just give you a whole one bill. But most of the time they break it down to tell you how much you're actually paying for each and every one of these things I just talked about, right? So you want to be able to know that, hey, if I have this money coming in, will I be able to afford all these things inside here? There's no there's no way you can run away from taxes from a home. There's no way you can run away from home insurance. There is no way you're not gonna pay that interest rate, and what is your initial principal, right? So those things are things you must pay when you buy a house. So you can't say, oh, I want to take this and I don't want to take that. So you know that it's a must pay. So you have to start planning toward it. And that is why if you budget well, then you know that, hey, my mortgage is going to be the number one priority in my budget whenever I buy the house. So I have to keep things in order. And you see that if you budget good, you won't have to struggle by the time you have to pay your rent. You don't have to wait till the end of the month or the first to pay it. You just pay it right whenever you have those you have your money available. You can pay at any time of the month. One other thing that people don't always think about is sometimes when they hear about the zero down payment, they think, oh, I'm not gonna need money when I'm buying a house. You do. You do, even if you end up having a zero down payment, you need money to do closing. There is closing costs. So you have to start budgeting money for down payments and closing costs. Down payment, like I talked about on my previous video, like conventional, you have down payments between 3% and 20%. For FHAs, you have down payments at least 3.5%, right? So it's 3.5% of how much your house is going to be. So you have to bring that money. And even if you end up having a USDA loan or a VA loan that you don't bring the down payments, you still have to pay for closing costs. So in the closing costs, you know that those things are expenses. I don't know how much it's gonna cost. Every house is different, but it's gonna be at least something, yeah, substantial. When you're budgeting, you need to know that, hey, maybe even if it's 5,000, I need to keep 5,000 ready, right? Maybe it's 10,000, I need to keep it. But don't just fold your hands and think, I'm not gonna bring anything to the table at the end of the day, but I'm gonna get a house. It doesn't work like that. You have to somehow put money somewhere, right? You have to have money somewhere in case something happens. There are a lot of unknown situations when buying a house, and you don't want to find yourself in a situation where during the closing you're unable to afford that money just because you didn't plan. And sometimes we actually have the money somewhere, but just that we didn't plan for it. Maybe we budgeted it for something else, and now it's hard to go for that something else to go get the money out from there because maybe you already put it somewhere else, right? So you have to budget towards this. There is gonna be a closing cost, even if you end up having a zero down payment. But most of the time, you have to pay a down payment and a closing cost. The next thing, the number 4 thing you're budgeting for is going to be other home costs. Most of these houses that we buy are houses that were built already, right? So no matter how much you get for the house, there are some few things that maybe needs to be corrected. You never know. You can see a house and you get in there, the kitchen is not the way you wanted it, and you want to fix it to suit your taste. Might be the bedroom or one or two things weren't the way you wanted. Because guess what? It wasn't tailored for you. It wasn't built. You didn't hire an architect, give them the design of the house you really want. You already bought what was designed, right? Maybe the architect said, oh, I love the way the house look and I built it according to my taste. It might not be according to your taste, and then when you buy it, you want to have that house according to your taste. So those are other expenses. Let's forget about that. Let's talk about maybe you get in the house and in a few months your water heater stopped working, your gas stopped working, or other things that you had not been paying for, right? Those are expenses that you were not paying for before. So you have to start keeping money toward that. So you want to think of, after I finish buying this house, what if something happens? What if I have to fix my water heater. What if your gas goes up or your stove goes up? What if I come in and the fridge that uh, was there stopped working? All those things, you will not have to go for someone else to come fix it, right? You have to take up that money from somewhere, and it's all on you. So budgeting toward that at the early stage helps you go through the process without panic, especially the first few years of you owning a house. It's a really, really big deal because you have to really, really put a lot of things into consideration, and start budgeting when you think about it is a very good way of helping yourself and not going through the struggles. And utilities and repairs, maintenance, all those things come into other costs, right? And some people actually pay homeowners associate fee. Depending on where you buy your house, maybe in the community where you buy the house, they'll pay those things, right? So if you buy a house in such a community, of course you have to pay homeowners association fee. If you don't, if you buy a house where it's not required, mean you're okay because you don't have to pay for it. But if you get a house somewhere like that, you have to pay for those things. So all other homeowner, the other costs that you actually have to put into consideration when you're buying a house. The next thing we will talk about is your financial goals. I talked about what are your other financial goals you want to achieve. In the long run, buying a house doesn't stop you from actually doing other things, right? When you get a house, remember the money is only going out because you keep paying for mortgage. And in that mortgage, you have to pay for taxes, you have to pay for other things. So money actually has to keep going out, it's not coming in. So especially when you don't buy your house cash. If you buy your house cash, that's a different story because you don't have to pay for all those things. But if you buy a house using loans, of course, you have to pay for the mortgage. And that just means that if the money is not coming in, it's just going out. So imagine you have to that money has to keep going out from your bank account every month for the next 30 years. It's just draining you. You're still young. You have to start planning toward maybe retirement, start planning toward if I have kids, start planning toward education. Some people say, I'm not going to go to school. Most people don't go to school or they don't actually want to go. It's okay. But what you still somehow have to self-educate yourself, right? And self-education is equally expensive. Maybe you say, I don't want to go to the normal college and university. I just want to take crash programs. Do you think it's cheap? No, it's not. You still have to pay those money out of pocket. So one way or the other, maybe you actually had gone to school, graduated, and then you have kids when you buy these homes. Are your kids going to need the money to go to school? Yes. So you actually have to start planning for long term, and that is why it is what the long term financial goals. Maybe you want to invest. When you invest money, that money actually works and that's bringing you back what is called passive income. If you invest, let's say you invest money in a piece of house or a piece of real estate that is not a home that you're living in, and you maybe it's like a rental property. Whenever those people pay those monies, it comes back to you, right? So you're actually having what is called passive income. So that is something you actually have to start putting money toward. Regardless of you paying that mortgage, you actually have to start planning or putting money aside for other long-term financial goals. And that is so important for us. And when you budget, you have financial stability. It helps you avoid extensive debt or excessive debt and financial stress or struggles, because you restrict what your budget is, right, or what you want to spend your money on. Let's say you like eating out a lot, but you see that your income and what you're working toward doesn't allow you to keep going out to eat. Of course, you will limit how much money you want to spend out to eat, or limit money on things that are not a necessity, right? to you, things that seem to be like luxury, which is not gonna bring money into your bank account but only take out money. You can limit those. Am I saying don't do it at all? No. But you can limit those. Why you? Because the more you plan on your budget, the more you know that, hey, I can sacrifice now to enjoy in the future. So if you sacrifice that eating out or doing other things or buying stuff that are non necessities at this point in time, just to make sure your budget stays intact, you're actually going to use that money, maybe invest in something that's going to bring you income in the future, and then you're going to take that passive income in the future and do the things that you didn't do now. However, there's always opportunity cost, right? Sometimes you need to forgo some stuff to actually enjoy them at a later date. So those are some of the things or some of the reasons why you should budget at every step of your life, or budget, especially when you know you're actually going to buy a house. The second topic we're going to talk about today is things you could consider buying a house. People have different reasons and different things they want in a house. Some people, their drive is, I want my kitchen big. I don't want to struggle in a small kitchen. I want it to look a certain way. I want bigger bedrooms. I want my house to be in a certain location. So what are the things you consider while buying a house? Some of the things that people consider is the location of the house. The number one thing is the location of the house. Where do you want your house? Do you want your house in a particular neighborhood? What is in that zip code or neighborhood that drives you? Maybe it's going to be the education, might be the roads, might be the business, right? Some people don't want to drive so far just to go shop. So that everything, all those things are all fall into the location of where you want to stay. Some people want proximity to their work, proximity to school, all other things into consideration, but the location of your house, because guess what, you're buying a house for that long. It's not something you're just going to get in today and get out the next day. You're going to surely spend half of the number of years you're paying for the house at that location. Some people might move after a few years, but well, some people end up having to live at that house for the longest till they die, or till they pass away, right? So imagine you buying a house at a location you don't like, a neighborhood you wouldn't want to stay there. What do you think is going to happen, right? You're going to feel very frustrated and there's really nothing you can do about it. Maybe you don't have any other money to actually go look for a house in another location because you're stuck with paying the mortgage for that current house and you don't have any other money to go out there. So when you're planning on buying a house, first of all, make sure that wherever whatever house you want to buy, let it be at the actual location that you've been looking for. You could have multiple zip codes you actually want to stay there, but at least let it be something that even if I didn't get this zip code, I'm gonna get this one and it's comfortable for me. It's okay for me to stay there, right? So think about the location of the home whenever you're actually going to buy the house, right? The second thing is the property type and feature. Like I said, some people want bigger kitchens, some people want big rooms or a swimming pool, some nice amenities, an outdoor kitchen, some space outdoor you can live in, maybe do camping. All those things come into play when you're actually buying a house. Because like I said, it's a long time contract. It's not a house except you're buying houses for commercial use, or let's say buying houses so people can come in and rent and you're not going to stay there. But most people buy houses because they want to move into that house, right? So you want to know what the futures are. Maybe you want a town home, you want a single family home, you want a condominium, you're okay staying in a multi-family dwelling, the size, the layout, the number of beds, rooms, toilets you want in that house, All those things, the space, right? All those things, you should worry about it, especially when you go out to see houses. Maybe you say, my criteria is 3 bedroom, 3 bath, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 5 bedroom, 5 bath. Put all those things into consideration while you are buying it. I want my house to look a certain way. I want my toilet. I want um, no matter what space I have, I equally still want to have, let me say, a basement or something. Put all those things into consideration while you're actually going out there to see these houses. What else should you worry about? Condition of the property. I don't want to buy a house that I'm going to start struggling and spending all my money on it. No, you don't want to go buy a house that the foundation is already shaky, right? You don't want to buy a house that, hey, in the next 5 months, few months, I'm gonna have to change my roof, or a house that already has cracks. A lot of things. There are houses, right? There are a lot of houses out there. And like I said, look at the condition of the house very well, assess. And that is why you need inspection, which I'm gonna be talking about that on another video. But you need inspection on the house when you buy. You want to actually spend that money so you can save yourself the struggles and stress in the future. Because just looking at a house with your eyes, you're not going to know what is wrong with it. So spend the money, get someone to inspect the house so they can tell you everything. And there are different amounts for different inspections. So maybe you just want a basic house check, right? There's the price for it. You want more, maybe termite or plumbing or something. You can pay for all those things just to make sure you're on the safe side. It's better you check now before buying, or you wait and then buy and then discover all other things were wrong with the house. Do you think you're going to be comfortable staying in a house where you know the foundation is shaky? No. You don't want to sleep and wake up and then when there's rain, you have rain on your bed or on the floor, and then you start worrying about all those things. Or maybe there is mold in the house, right? So you have to actually check the condition of the property and make sure that, hey, if I see something wrong with the house and I'm buying it, you should be ready for whatever consequences, or make that decision by yourself. Don't just want to go out there and get a house in any condition, except you actually just buy houses, renovate, and then sell them back. So another thing you should talk about is the financing option. Financing option. Research and understand the different financing options you have for those houses, right? And we've talked about those: interest rate, loans, down payments, and closing costs, right? So those things come into play when you're actually going, and then check the future growth and resale value of the house. That's going to be, I think, the 5th point, I guess. So check the future growth and resale value. I don't want to buy a house for maybe 500,000, and then in the next few years, I don't want to stay there anymore. But those next few years, let's say 5 years after I buy my house, instead of the financial value or resale value being up, it's going down. It's not going to make sense, right? We don't want to buy a house that we are not going to, whenever we are going to sell it, we are not going to make any profit. It's not worth it. You don't want to buy a house that the value keeps going down. You want to buy a house that the value keeps going up. So you check the future growth. You check, let's say, maybe the environment where the house is actually located. There are so many things that can happen, but we don't want to get ourselves involved in houses that have no growth, no resale value that increases, or we only have decreased resale value. No, we want to have a house that even after I buy it in the next few years, I decide to sell it, I'm gonna sell it at a price that I'm gonna gain something back. It doesn't matter how much you gain back. Your thought should be, if I buy a house of 500,000, even if I end up making only 100 bucks over, it's better than not making any money, right? So you want to make sure you get a house that it has growth in future, and the resale value is only increasing and not going down, regardless of the time where you actually want to sell the house. The other thing I want us to talk about is I've talked about the size and the renovation of the house. Sometimes people sell houses, they say, as it is. So there are a lot of times, especially now in the market, when sellers say as it is. They'll sell you houses as they are. They don't want to do any more renovation. They don't want to fix nothing in the house. Nothing once they don't want to change anything. If you're going for such a house, are you willing to renovate it to your taste? Let's say you go and maybe the color of the house is not what you want. Are you ready to repaint, renovate it? Are you ready to align or fix the kitchen amenities? You know, there's some houses that were built in the late 1900s, and the amenities in the kitchen don't look like the current amenities most people use in their houses, right? Are you willing to renovate your whole kitchen and get some fancy stuff for your kitchen? Or let's say your living room, your living space, and all that. So if you're willing to do renovation, well, you can go for that. If you're not, then look for a house that you're not going to spend so much money renovating. Or even at that, right? Like I said, so most houses were built later, and you have to do one or two things to make it up to standard for you. But if you have to do that, look into it that, hey, how much I'm going to spend is not going to be so much money. You want to take into consideration that you can equally just look for somebody to give you an estimate of, if I end up buying this house, how much would it cost for me to renovate it? And just ask those kind of questions before you go into buying that house, because you don't want to buy a house no matter how much, and then you spend almost the same amount to renovate the house to be up to your taste, right? It doesn't work that way. And we've talked about the condition of the property. What are your long-term plans? Some people are so emotional and they want to stay in the house for a long time. So you don't want to overlook your personal preference and emotions, and you just want to choose the things that you are okay for you to stay in the house, right? That makes you feel like the place is okay for you to stay, because you can never have it all, except you build a house to your taste. But if it was somebody's idea or somebody's plan, they weren't building it for you, because it's not gonna be tailored to all your what your taste, to your design. It was built, or the design was theirs, and they built that because they thought, hey, it was good for me this way. So you just want to be okay, or whenever you're getting a house, okay with everything you see. And even if you're not, then you can work toward getting it to be a better day. And considering long-term plans, how to make the home fit you, right? Some people buy a house while they are still single, and now as time goes on, they have kids. So all those things have to be put into consideration. If I'm buying this house, let's say you're buying a 3 bedroom and I end up getting married, even if you were not married, end up getting married and having kids, is my family going to be okay staying with me in this location for the next couple of years, even if you have to move out? You can't just give birth today and move out tomorrow, right? It's costly. So you want to think of all those things and think, and make sure that, hey, if I'm getting this house, it's gonna be okay in the long term for me to stay in with my family, even if I have additions to to myself, or to my husband and I, or to other kids I already have. So all those things are things that you actually have to consider when you actually want to go get the house. And this brings us to the end of this video. In addition, if you are in the state of Kansas or Missouri, we do offer free classes for first-time home buyers or buyers in general. Thank you all for watching. Please leave your comments on the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Please stay healthy and safe out there. Until next time, be blessed. Thank you.